and welcome to Puzzle Pieces. In this episode, I'd like to explain how Sherlock Holmes deciphered a secret code that led him to identify the killer as described in the story The Adventure of the Dancing Men by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. In the story, a lady named Elsie receives a series of coded notes which contain drawings of stick figures dancing. Sherlock Holmes realises that the dancing figures are a simple substitution cipher, in which each pose corresponds to a different letter of the alphabet. So how did he decipher the message? Let me take you through the steps he took. So to start with, he simply notes the number of times that each symbol appears. Looking at this first message, of 15 symbols, 4 of them are the same. Now, E is the most common letter in the English alphabet, so it seems reasonable to assume that this could be the symbol for E. If we do that and we replace all of that character with an E throughout, it looks like this. Now he also noticed that some of the characters had flags while some did not. Given the distribution of the characters that held flags and the fact that there is no spacing between the figures or other apparent punctuation, it seems possible that the flags were used to indicate the gap between words. Now here we've got a single 5-letter word because there's no flag in this message. Something E, something E, something. Now there's only a handful of words in the English language that could fit that pattern. It could be sever or lever or never. And given that Holmes believed that this was a conversation going on between two people, a single word response never seems the most likely. So that gives us the letters N, V and R. Now, he also knew that the party to which these messages had been sent was a lady called Elsie. And there's a 5-letter pattern, E something 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 E, that features in 2 messages here and here. So it seems perfectly possible that that could be her name, Elsie. And if we assume that to be the case, we get the letters L, S and I. In this message, there's a single 4-letter word that comes before Elsie, ending in the letter E. And we assume it's going to be some instruction or direction that the person writing the message is telling Elsie to do. So come seems the most fitting word that would go there, and that gives us C, O and M. Now, with the letters that we've found so far, we can go back to look at the first message again. Here we have the very first word has 2 characters in it, and the second one is an M. So the first letter can only be an A at this point. Following the same logic, the H also becomes apparent. And now as we continue to follow patterns of letters that can fit in the remaining spaces, we can find the T, G, P, Y, and from this stage we can fill in the remaining words just to give the complete message as follows. So if you'd like to create your own puzzle inspired by the Dancing Men code shown here, there's 2 main things to be aware of. The first is that the characters shown in this video are the only characters that Arthur Conan Doyle created. And while those messages contain 18 of the most common letters used in the English alphabet, it doesn't contain all of them. So F, Q, W, X, Z, J, for example, are not included there. And because the pose made by the stick figures doesn't really correlate at all with the letter they represent, there's no way of us knowing what Arthur Conan Doyle would have used to recreate those characters. So if you want to encode a message that includes those letters, you'll have to come up with your own stick figure pose for that. There's a few places on the internet you can find where people have created the whole alphabet, but you should be aware that the poses they use for those letters are unofficial, so to speak, and there's no way of validating them back to the source. The second thing to be aware of, if you expect your players to follow the same deductive process that Sherlock does in the story, is to provide that additional context which he had to rely on. Remember that he knew that these messages were being sent to a lady named Elsie, and that was crucial in uncovering some of the likely letters to be used in certain patterns in the text. Likewise, during World War II, Allied code breakers relied on knowing the format for weather reports that used to be sent, and by following the structure of the expected pattern of the message, they were able to crack the cipher used, and then use that to decode other messages as well. Or you could simply provide players with the lookup table of which figure corresponds to which letter. But if you do that, you need to make the puzzle more interesting in other ways. Perhaps the figures themselves could be represented by toy Lego figures or Barbie dolls representing the different dance moves. Or perhaps it could be a video played or some sort of fitness routine where people made these poses. And that might make quite a fun puzzle.